Today we're going to learn how to factor by grouping. Now, factoring by grouping requires many of the same steps as the previous method of factoring, but it's more of a change in style. Similar to how we had the box method and double distribution method for multiplying polynomials, we can use factoring by grouping or the box method when factoring. There are a few exceptions to this where we have to use factoring, but we'll get to those in a minute. Okay. Let's take a look at a fairly basic example where we have n squared plus n minus 56. Okay. Now, step one remains the same. If there's a GCF, we need to find the GCF. Okay. In this case, there isn't one, so we can move on to step two. Step two remains the same as well. Go to diamond. All right. Work the diamond. Okay, so we set up our diamond. Remember, it's ax squared times c, or in this case, n squared times negative 56. So negative 56 n squared, and the bottom is just bx, or in this case, just n. Since the top is negative, we know we have one positive and one negative. And in this case, our positive is bigger. Now, when factoring by grouping in particular, I really want you to focus on putting the negative on the left side. Okay, if you're only going to have one negative, put it on the left side. It'll become clear as to why. Okay, in this case, we need to think of factors of 56. We have 28 and 2, 14 and 4, 8 and 7. Okay, there we go. Negative 7 and 8 n. Now, it's this next step that's really kind of the crux of what factoring by grouping is. Step 3. We're going to rewrite the trinomial. Rewrite the trinomial using the answers to the diamond instead of the middle term. Here we go. Rewrite the trinomial using the answers to the diamond instead of the middle term. So we still do not need the top and bottom. All we need are the sides. Let's take a look at what I mean when I say rewrite. N squared is going to remain the same. Negative 56 is going to remain the same, but plus n is not. We're going to have n squared minus 7n, the first answer to our diamond problem, plus 8n plus 56. Okay. N squared minus 7n plus 8n. Sorry, minus. I'll do it plus a negative 56. Should have been a minus 56. Sorry about that. And so all we've really done is we've just uncombined like terms. Okay, if we were to add negative 7n and 8n, we'd go right back to n. That's why we're able to do this. We've written an equivalent statement. We're just uncombined like terms. Okay, so step 4. Step 4, group into two binomials. Or group into two binomials. Okay. I have n squared minus 7n plus 8n minus 56. Okay, pretty simple. But that's why we say we're factoring by grouping. We've made two different groups that we can factor with. Step 5, find the GCF of each group. Okay, find the GCF of each group. So, taking a look at our first group, n squared minus 7n, our GCF is n. So we have n times n minus 7. n times n minus 7. Now the GCF of our second group is 8n minus 56. GCF for that is 8. So it's going to be plus 8 times n minus 7. Now you might notice what's left behind in the parentheses match, and they have to match. If they do not match, we cannot move on. It is not correct, okay? So we'll make a note of that right now. Okay. The factors left in the parentheses must, I'm going to do an all caps and underline, must match. Okay, so in this case, that's n minus 7 and n minus 7. They must match. Okay. So before moving on, I want to take a look at a side example. Okay. If we have n box plus 8 box, the thing that these two terms have in common is the box. Okay. And so if I were to ask, what's the GCF of this binomial, our GCF would be box, right? So we would have box times n plus 8. Okay. The reason I bring this up is because now instead of a box, we have a group of n minus 7 here. And so step 6 is factor out the binomial. Factor out the binomial. In this case, it's n minus 7. So just like before, we had our box times n plus 8. Now instead of a box, we have n minus 7. And what's left behind? N plus 8. Okay, this is our answer. N minus 7 times n plus 8. Okay, this is a little tricky. Okay, this last step is really kind of the part that's tough for a lot of students. We're factoring out a whole binomial as opposed to just a small term. Okay, we're used to factoring out 2 or 4 or even 2x, but binomial is what's new. Let's take a look at an example. Here we're going to have 7p squared plus 33p minus 54. So is there a GCF? In this case, no. Okay, no GCF. We do need to set up our diamonds. Okay, 7p squared times negative 54. It's negative 378. P squared, positive 33p. We have one positive and one negative. We'll put the negative on the left side. So whatever the negative is, we're going to put it on the left side. In a moment, I'll show you why. Okay. So in this case, we have to figure out, all right, so what multiplies to 378 and adds to 33? So they're going to be 33 apart. So we do 9 times 42. Let's check that. Yes, 9 times 42 is correct. In this case, the larger number is positive. So we have 42p over here and negative 9p over here. Let's rewrite our trinomial, but now using the answers to our diamond. We don't need the top or the bottom of the diamond. So this becomes 7p squared minus 9p plus 42p minus 54. Okay. We're going to put these into groups. 7p squared minus 9p, 42p minus 54. Okay. Now let's find the GCF of each group. GCF of 7p squared minus 9p is just p. So if p times 7p minus 9 plus GCF of 42 and 54 is 6. And so we have left with 7p minus 9. Notice what's left in the parentheses match. Remember, if it does not match, we cannot move on. It means we've made a mistake somewhere. Okay. So 7p minus 9, 7p minus 9, that's going to be one of our factors. P plus 6 is going to be the other factor. P plus 6, 7p minus 9. These are our two factors. Okay. We're going to do one more together, and I'll show you why putting the negative on the left side is more helpful. Okay. Let's see, we have (24) x squared minus 129x minus 90. Is there GCF? Yes. 3 goes into all of these. 3 goes into all of these. So our GCF is 3 times 8x squared minus 43x minus 30. We're going to save that 3 until our final answer. 3 times some factor times some factor. Okay. Let's set up our diamond. Negative 240 x squared, negative 43x. Okay. Now, I've said it before. I'm going to continue to say it. You should put your negative on the left side. Let's see what happens when we put our negative on the right. Okay. So what multiplies to negative 240 but adds to negative 43? Let's see, it's going to be negative 48 and 5. I believe. Yep, 48 and 5. So negative 48x 5x. All right. So we don't need the top, we don't need the bottom. We're going to rewrite this trinomial 8x squared minus 43x minus 30 as 8x squared plus 5x minus 48x minus 30. Okay. We group them. Okay. Some of you might have noticed something already. We'll circle back to it. Okay. We find our GCF of our first group. We end up with x. We have x times 8x plus 5. GCF of our second group is 6, so minus 6 times 8x minus 5. These don't match, okay? These don't match. That's because of this negative sign right here, okay? If you are going to have a negative sign on the right, which is possible even if we don't have one or the other, okay? Sometimes you don't have a choice. If we have a negative sign on the right, here's what you should do instead, okay? Not what I just did. Instead, you have 8x squared plus 5x, and I would say write it as plus negative 48x minus 30. Plus the negative will get us into a position where we find the GCF correctly. And so when we group this, GCF here is still x times 8x plus 5 plus, and now inside our parentheses, inside this binomial, our GCF is not 6 like we thought up here. Our GCF is -6. -6. So -6 times 8x plus 5. Now these match, and that's important. Okay, so our GCFs and our leftovers. GCFs of x and -6, and our leftovers of 8x plus 5. Okay, 8x plus 5. Now I mentioned sometimes it's unavoidable to have a negative on the right side. Okay, in case both sides are negative. And so if that's the case, make sure you write it as plus a negative. Okay, we'll run through one more example really quickly, going over that situation, and then I'll have you do one on your own. We have 5a squared minus 17a plus 6, no GCF, set up our diamond, 30a squared negative 17a. Top is positive, bottom is negative. That means both sides are going to be negative. So what multiplies to 30 adds 17, 15a and 2a. Okay, so as we rewrite this, we have 5a squared minus 15a. As at this point, we want to write it as plus negative 2a plus 6. Okay, this plus is negative allows us to group in a way so our leftovers match. GCF of the first one is 5a. I'm left with a minus 3 plus GCF of our second group is -2. The higher degree term is negative, so our GCF is going to be -2 times a minus 3. So we have our GCFs and our leftovers, and what we're left with is 5a minus 2 times a minus 3. Okay. I want you to try this one on your own. We have 8m, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. We have 16m squared plus 4m minus 30. Okay, try this one on your own. Factor by grouping.